Good morning, everyone. My name's Jim from Fender Catselitis, here to talk about Australia 108 in Southbank. So I'll run through what I've got. I suppose when we look at this building, we are considering the site in the urban context of Southbank, and we all know that Southbank is an area of Melbourne that is very heavily influenced by high-rise development, and it is located such that there is prerogative to deliver a lot of housing in a small area. And this is really taking that to the extreme. So what Australia 108 is at its core is 1,100 homes on just over half an acre in terms of site size. It's responding to two very different urban conditions. One is Southbank Boulevard, which you see here, which has just gone through a really extensive greening program. The street has been narrowed. We've got a tram going down that runs to Port Melbourne that turns off just before our site, but half of the road has been taken over by greening, new parks and bike paths. And then the other urban interface is City Road, which is very much the opposite. It's a very harsh urban environment. And a lot of the development along City Road has been challenged as a result of that. Very extreme traffic conditions and no real indication of when that will change in the future. So looking at this building in particular, we were offered an opportunity to design another landmark for Southbank. And what we do when we're given these sort of opportunities is really think about some of the principles that Kevin Lynch wrote about in The Image of the City, about the importance of landmarks, not only as individual identifiable pieces within the skyline, but also as locational devices, particularly when seen as a collection. So Australia 108 was designed very much to respond to and sit in dialogue with Eureka Tower, just over the road on the other side of City Road. So it has some very different formal responses and very different kind of architectural gestures. It is much more curvaceous in its form, as opposed to the sort of hard edge Eureka Tower, but it talks to Eureka in a lot of the materiality, the representation of the banding, the colour of the glass, and the use of gold as a highlight colour. And that is such that when you pretty much anywhere around Melbourne, if you can see these two buildings, their relationship in the skyline is such that you can locate where you are relative to Southbank and relative to the CBD. The other scale we think about, so if you look at what I just spoke about before as being the city scale and what it means from afar, the other scale that we talk about with buildings like this, which is really very important, is the human scale, and particularly the scale at ground plane. And what we were trying to do with this building in particular is subvert the sort of more traditional expectation of a podium and a tower, a podium being a quite solid and hard-edged boundary at the ground plane. So instead, we've taken a lot of the tower materiality and tried to dissolve and fragment that as it hits ground. And that achieves sort of three key things. The first of those is a very pragmatic thing. It helps to disrupt and break up the wind flow as it reaches the ground level. So we have a very, very open first 11 floors of car park deck, and the forms as they're broken up and fragmented and as they come to ground helps disrupt the wind flow and make for a much more comfortable urban condition. The second is that this approach really serves to contrast and counterpoint the retained heritage forms along City Road, and instead of making them part of a harder, more solid and more cohesive street wall, they sit in contrasted counterpoint to that. So they serve as that hard element. and they kind of sit on their own right. And the third, of course, is that it gives us an opportunity for some really extensive podium landscaping. So this is a little over 500 square metres of deep soil planting. This image I think looks wonderful as it is, but it's 18 months old, and I encourage you to go down and have a look at it. It just looks better and better every day as this landscape develops. And as the landscape in front of it, which is the end of that urban greening along South Bank Boulevard, develops as well, the two talk to each other and complement each other really well. So at the ground plane itself, we have City Road to the north, and I've mentioned that sort of harsh urban interface and the extensive traffic flows along there. So two of the kind of key things we're trying to do here is internalise a lot of the pedestrian experience. So we're trying to bring the pedestrian experience inside via an east-west internal arcade, which provides an address on South Bank Boulevard against the greenery, and also a porte cochere to mean for safe drop-off and pick-up and deliveries along the western edge, connecting to Faulkner Street, which is kind of the service lane south. If that was the 6-minute marker, I better hurry up. The 3 retail tenancies at ground to activate the street frontage, and 2 lobbies to provide diversity of experience and break down that community of 1,100 homes into slightly more manageable pieces. Ground plane, I will skip through. I'll mention Car Design, who did a wonderful job on the interiors, and I should have also mentioned Oculus, who did a great job on the landscaping and particularly the greening of the podium. One of the things that a building of this scale allows us to do is play with the breakup of facilities and particularly provide a lot more facilities than would typically be allowed on a build-to-sell development. And what we've tried to do is subvert the expectation that they all exist at a lower level and bring some of them to the upper level. So even if you've got a lower level apartment, you can still access facilities that are 200 metres in the sky. And really make the most of, I'll jump through quite quickly, we have barbecue facilities. This is the level 70 floor plate, which is all residential amenities, 2 swimming pools, a second gym, private dining facilities and lounges. And like I said, that really serves to give all residents of this building, regardless of where they're situated, the opportunity to make the most of what a development like this can offer.